and shooting, because the high school has
the
a
seats are
wall.
empty. The audience seats are empty, right?
It's not about that.
It's a different depth perception. Yeah.
It's so off and so crazy.
And imagine a bunch of people with those little noodles wiggling the noodles. How hard it would be to shoot a freeze. Yeah.
It really is, yeah. And then another set, we went to the botanical gardens, and our trailer just happened to be beside this other trailer that was a habitat for frogs. And the average person doesn't get to go in there, but I was asking them, I'm like, oh, what's this little frog thing? They're like, oh, well, you can come in. And so we put the garment, the protection thing on there, and we went in there and actually learned about the frogs in the area and how a lot of them are becoming extinct because of our streams and rivers, being like trashed and whatever. But had I not been on the movie set, I would have had those privileges to see those really cool frogs. It's pretty cool.
So let me see if I can get this again. Huh?
Let's go.
No.
So I've seen that presentation. So we have more. I don't mind making an ass.
It's the first step of freedom, right? No, that wasn't it. Never mind. You get the never mind. You get the idea. The joke's old at this point. Okay, so I had the light too. Okay, right. All right, so we'll get back to it now. So the idea here, right, is that the humans are the biggest, of course, problem child here in this arrangement, because they've had pretty much control through their technology over all the entire animal kingdom, for sure. Either in direct and indirect ways, right? All of these other species of the planet have mostly complained to some extent about the people, about the humans. It's exactly what it is. We came in and we stifled, what the direction of these humans.
Even humans complain about humans.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Right? You were complaining about the banks earlier, right? Here we go. Right? And so, what we're going to do is kind of recognize is that these rights that all these different species on this planet want are some collective things that y'all want, right? Like I put general here, universal rights from what I've heard today so far. The right to life, right? Life wants to live, okay?
And Bill wants to kill us all.
well, there's exceptions to the rule, right?
Humanely.
Right? Animals that are alive want to be healthy. Animals that, not only do they want the right to live, but that want that life to be a life of health, so that it can live well, right? Every species, no species said that they want a dirty environment, okay?
I don't know, pigs might like it.
Now, there might be some at the table eventually that would say, actually, a dirty environment's better for me, like especially got down to microscopic bacteria, whatever, maybe some bacteria would love a filth-ridden environment, right? I'm sure roaches, like, say the dirtier the better, right? We want every human to be a hoarder. This is great.
And bikers seem to like it.
Bikers, yeah. That's the gene for meth, right? It's causing it. But anyway. And then finally, like, less suffering. Every species doesn't want this, like, life of suffering, okay? And so in general, this is like some things kind of common that all the animals want, and that's exactly what this alien species is now bringing. We're stifling the humans so that these things can come into existence as much as possible. Now, the healthcare is a tall order. We have to work on that over time. I haven't done surgery on a ladybug. But maybe with the technology, it seems absurd at this point in time. But who knows? Maybe someday that might not seem absurd.
Might know. They might have
how to do their own
doctors.
Sure.
Know how to fix a broken wing.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen them use tools.
So, when we look at like what the humans want, right, and you start going down this kind of lengthy list, we've got more on the humans list than we have at any other species tonight, which makes sense for obvious reasons, right? But there's the healthy environment. There's that's come back into play. Of course, it's there, right? And now this chance to mend their ways, make right. That's very interesting. So humans actually seek a path to redemption. That's kind of very interesting. Right?
No, they're just seeking the stuff that they lost.
I see. So you think they're just being they're trying to be deceptive. They say they want to mend their ways, but they just want to get back to the old ways. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe.
They want to make humanity great again. Right? So freedom, humans have this thing, they demand this idea, or at least this illusion of freedom. They demand that like they cannot just be in a managed system. They have to feel as if they're somehow not managed, even though in reality, even in the current, human control structures, infrastructure, if it's not managed, tell me what is.
Yeah, I want freedom from both of those.
Tell me what it is then, right? But for example, the illusion of freedom is more incarcerating than prison, really, because the illusion of freedom is clandestine, and we don't understand that it's an illusion, right? When our freedoms are mostly stripped from us, but we don't know it. That's the worst kind of non-freedom, or whatever we call it, slavery.
Yeah, I don't think prisoners would agree with you.
Well, it's because it's overt. You can see the bars, and it's obvious. It's the invisible prisons of our, certain micro cultures that we find ourselves in. These different ideas, these different relationships, these entanglements that are invisible that we don't see can sometimes put us in barriers way more vast than prison, especially intellectual barriers, right?
Have you ever been to prison?
Yes.
Well, indirectly. Yeah, please. This is in Bill.
I know that we're kind of moved past it, but I wanted to add one more thing.
Please.
For the humans and for the animals.
A universal?
A universal thing where we get to earn our sovereignty.
Interesting.
Where we get to prove, that we can be good humans and good animals, and then we are able to be free.
Very interesting. Earn the sovereignty.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of revealing one of my weaknesses tonight. EIN? EIGNTY?
Yeah.
Holy mackerel, thank you. See, the mastermind principle. Together we're smarter than one. See, now if I say sovereignty into Google, it just spells it for me.
Yeah.
That's my technology cop-out. Yeah. Anyway, so interesting. That's an interesting one. Would we think this would be a universal?
Yeah, because if I'm speaking for the dogs, they want to earn and show like, hey, I'll be a good boy, and you can let me off the leash, and I'm not going to run away. Like my
Sure.
dog, but then he tends to run away. He's not paying attention when he thinks I'm not paying attention.
Well, dog bites are a serious issue, by the way. No, seriously, dog bites is a serious health issue for humans, actually.
Yeah.
So is humans biting meat.
Cosmo.
I wanted to thank Carla for that excellent link about how animals were helping each other out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was so wonderful.
That's what I do when I take my breaks and watch my cats and dogs and animals
Well,
videos to get off of things. Yeah.
It seems to
So
me
wonderful.
that they would be earning I'm not so sure that it's sovereignty. It's more like maybe earning respect. That they have shown compassion, and because they've shown compassion, then they deserve to be treated with compassion. It's kind of like they've earned compassion.
So there's
compassion.
Earn some. Okay.
Sovereignty, earning compassion.
There's a natural kind of dilemma that this is now the next piece, right? Y'all have a big problem here. Okay, is that y'all want the right to life, which makes sense. I see, you can understand why. You want all these things, but there's too many. There's too much.
Yeah.
Right? And this isn't like the Thanos snap or anything. It's like there's too much, right? So like there's not enough to go around. There's not enough resources, no matter how they're managed. There is suffering then built into unmanaged population. Okay? And so what has to happen, what the aliens had done, is they had been forced to come down and start to manage this population. Like I said, they had to start to depopulate humans through a non-invasive procedure, like not just exterminating people, but basically creating an infrastructure that naturally produces less offspring, right? And we have some societies we have some nations in this world that are, like Japan, for example, that are seeing population decline, right? So this might be something we're trending towards naturally, but With the current level of the system and the logistics around the world, we could feed everybody if we manage stuff properly. We could, but the population trending makes it, no matter what we do technologically, unsustainable inevitably, right? Inevitably. There's only a certain amount of surface area. Human beings take a certain amount of space. There's a limit. There's a natural limit. It has to be. Cosmo and Susan?
I think what you're suggesting is that because of these clashes, that we need to eliminate the ones that clash so that we can come out with a core thing that we can all agree on. But I'm not quite sure that that's, you could do that, but I don't think you should eliminate the other things, because as a herbivore, I would like to live by these additional things, and that carnivores can't live by. Rather than just reducing it to just one lifestyle, that we'd have many lifestyles.
Fair. That's a fair assessment. The same. I will make this a derivative of the same argument, is that there is a no matter what, there is a carrying capacity for the closed system that we're on. There is a natural limit. It's massive. The limit is massive. Life is way underserved on this planet. As far as the potential for life on this planet is way more vast than it is right now. The amount of life currently existing on this planet is far less than this Earth could support, right?
Absolutely.
But how is that life mitigated? How is that life balanced? Regardless, there is a ceiling. There is a physical and empirical ceiling to the quantity of life.
Life on Earth.
Correct.
However, and I so agree with what you're saying. We're wasting tremendous resources by
Of course you agree. I'm this alien. Million IQ.
putting animals, or putting our food through animals to eat, a small percentage of the energy, the protein, et cetera, that we could have gotten by eating plants directly. But you're also forgetting that,
the same argument made for Coca-Cola, but continue.
Coca-Cola is very.
That was one of my things for if we did
product,
part A, but
okay, there are other wasteful products, no doubt. But you also talk about technology, and I'm thinking that before we get to the limit that this little planet can hold, that we can find ways to conquer other worlds.
This will absolutely not be allowed. This is one of the things we are not going to allow this cancer to spread to some of these other planets that are so well orchestrated. You guys would be cancer. Parasitic,
well, how about if we choose a planet that's not being populated?
We might negotiate
such
later.
as Mars, I don't know.
Let's do a few million years of this selective breeding and see where things go.
Yeah, it sounds
Steve.
like it's
I'll speak for the neoclassical economist, I guess.
Wait, does that count as human?
I don't know, but anyway. Yes, all this sounds great. I've listened to some of it. We talk about the green revolution and all this. We have created tremendously complex economic structures. For instance, to have everybody go vegan sounds like a nice thing. I can look and see, we probably use more resources than maybe we should, but it would require, unless we did this over a long period of time, 100 years or more, it would just totally turn the economic system upside down. And for those of you who have 401ks, you're probably going to see a significant reduction in your retirement income, for example, because this would tremendously affect capital markets, not only in this country but in the rest of the world. And it sounds good, but from a neoclassical economic standpoint, it would be disastrous for the way we live our lives
Sounds
today.
scary, but there'll be all these new industries popping up, just like when we went from horse and buggy to cars, that people were panicking, I'm sure.
Well, that is the argument.
Gale of creative
yeah.
destruction, I think they call that.
Yeah, creative destruction. Know a little bit about that. But the thing is, if it was done in the short amount of time that a lot of people say we only have a short amount of time, it would be, from my standpoint, from the neoclassical economist standpoint, it would be, very, very disruptive, especially to capital markets and retirement funds and all this.
I have heard this argument so many times in so many different derivatives that the only response that I can then possibly say, sorry, I'm not speaking as this omnipotent alien right now, right? Is that the economies around the world are doing a great job serving a very few number of people in any type of reasonable fashion. For proportionally, the overwhelming majority of the citizens on the planet are not served well by the global economic engine in general. So we could nothing would be better than to bring out to completely see the stock markets of every single country go to zero. That'd be the best thing ever for everybody, because we'd finally realize that this system that just siphons wealth from the working class and grinds it up towards the upper class, the 1% of the world, right? To see that whole thing come down would probably be the best thing that would happen to humanity ever. But
I vote for you.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not the money that's doing it; it's the regulation of money. They take it from you.
But there's a whole. That's why I said I'm not the alien now, because there's a whole other meetup, right? That's a whole other meetup. Yeah.
They're sucking value out of the economy by force.
So the humans, right? This whole thing, like this change to many ways, right? Make right. Another thing about humans, right, is humans have this. I wish I could word this well, but humans have this narrow-minded specificity, right? So what we as humans do is we focus on our thing, our particular task or our role, and we can get highly specialized in that one thing, and then to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? To the economist, the rules of the economy make sense and they work and they're great, and to the carpenter, like everything's about how the house is constructed, right? To the baker, it's all about food. It's all about making bread, baby, So it's like every single individual specialty, their particular niche becomes like the center of the universe, right? And that happens inside corporations as well. The people in sales think, oh, well, nothing happens without sales. Yeah, well, if you have anything to sell, right? And so everyone thinks that their particular disposition or their particular right has greater. It's just part of what we do. So humans, I think, thrive in a way because of that, because then we could take most of our mental capacity and focus it in on a particular area that in theory overall enhances, some might be negative, some might be positive, but overall it enhances what collectively we achieve as a species because of that specificity. See what I'm saying? Yeah. And so that could be very few other animals that I've ever seen have anything like this at all. Like you can argue that some ants in the colony do this and some do that. Yeah, that's kind of a derivative of that, right? But to humans, I mean, there's a person who throws darts for a living. There's people that shoot billiards for a living. That's their life. What, right? And there's people that focus on a very particular minute aspect of brain surgery. They do their brain surgery, but only on the hippocampus or something, right? They only in this special part of it. So it's really interesting how magnificently specialized human beings are, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I speak from that standpoint because that is the primary standpoint. If you go to a university and study economics, there are other schools of economics besides that neoclassical, but all of our economic models and government and all that are based on that neoclassical model. So it's almost like that's the only economics there is.
Universities play their role, don't they?
They do.
Kathy, you had your hand up, I think, before?
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah,
to take
I was just going to say the ecological consequences of, if humans were to switch to exclusively vegan, within, 10 years.
Sure.
We've already have a lot of issues out. We pretty much destroyed the prairie and replaced it with corn rows. And the reason is because corn grows really well in those conditions.
Sure.
Not very few vegetables besides, soybean's not a vegetable, but besides soybean would grow in enough with that capacity to feed everybody, and that's why population density can shoot up. Is one of the reasons is because food we can feed people the corn and the soybeans and pack it in so well that
absolutely that was
so the consequences of exclusively a vegan diet would be detrimental to an ecosystem.
I'm not sure I'm following you. Why would it be detrimental if you have to grow a whole lot less of this? Because most of the corn and soybeans that we grow are fed animals.
We also consume, like, the average American is consuming like 90% corn and soybean, which
that may be 90% of our diet. If that's what
yeah,
you're saying.
the diet.
Otherwise, that's very high. But
well, everything in the supermarket has corn in it.
That's what, yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
So,
but 80 to 90% of the corn and soybeans that we grow are fed to animals that we grow.
And my thing is that if we didn't have, if we ate, I'm not advocating for more meat, but if we did, maybe there wouldn't be so much prairie destruction out west because cows are naturally, they're kind of like buffalo. They have that, they're not as, I'm going into science here, but like they have that multi-chambered stomach where horses do not. They'll take a lot of out of the environment, but the multi-chambered stomach is the same as buffalo. So, I mean, a more natural environment would be to raise cows and, in the prairie versus corn, soybean rows, or even vegetable crops that aren't native to that environment. It's messing up a lot of the ecosystems when you focus on just vegetables. That most of the plants, most of the plants aren't. We can't consume most plants.
so the buffalo agree. They want their right to roam free, and in that particular
so
climate and
my
habitat, certain
thing,
species thrive there. Is what you're saying.
My thing would be, the ecosystem. You have to take into account when you're switching over to exclusive, hard to follow diet. It's kind of the consequences of destroying habitat are real, and that's.
I think it's the opposite. I think we're destroying the habitat.
Yeah.
We got a
Destroying the
conversation going
environment.
Yeah. Please.
I'd like to speak for the cows, the pigs, and the chickens that are all raised on factory farms in cages and saying, tear it down. Irregardless of the economic consequences. It is a violation of morality. It is torturing people. It is torturing animals. It is degrading our own ethical sense. Tear it down.
And they have absolutely no rights at all.
That's right.
Not raised, industrial raised. They have no rights.
And the
Our government, our federal government, will not even address that issue on
In
how
fact,
to treat the animals.
The government is saying you cannot even investigate these
That's right.
things.
Yeah, and they subsidize these things. But
So if the cows, pigs, and chickens were at the table to talk, they'd be their populations would be quite large, and so they'd have quite a representation at the right because of the vast numbers of these type of creatures that we raise. And so there is another natural conflict of interest here. So the cows, pigs, and chickens would have almost no, if not have zero, because they wouldn't exist at all if humans didn't manage them in the way that they do.
No, set them free, and let's see what happens. I mean, cows may get along pretty good for a while. Chickens too. Set them free, or at least set them into fields. Get them out of the cages. In fact, just make illegal factory farms. Industrial farming should be illegal.
animal farming should be.
Does it stand to reason? Just as a side note here, does it stand to reason that like the if you distribute a video like someone distributed for it might have been you, Susan. I don't know. I'm not trying to call you out or anything, but when we distribute when we distribute a video that's advocating for something, is it likely that video is edited in a manner by which it's only going to show the things that it's advocating for? I mean, of course, right? This is just
It's
logical.
one of the things you have to look for.
Yeah.
Right, it's one of the things that you have to look for.
And they're always going to lean towards that side.
Right. Now, y'all have probably known some people that are farmers and raise cattle or ranchers and all this kind of stuff, right? And there's some of these people are like love their animals, and they kind of feel bad when they process them, right? But some farmers and I think probably the majority of farmers actually care deeply about their livestock, not just their money that they make from them, but because of the fact that they just love the animals. And I mean, so I get it that there's criminal type abuse of the animals in certain factory farm situations, and just some of the near nature of how these factory farms are structured in some cases is criminal, because of it's just wrong to do that to any species, sure. But I'm talking about overall.
And just the fact that we forced them into existence, there wouldn't be so many. A lot of people say, well, the cows and the pigs, they're going to take over the world. No, they're not going to take over the world, because we're forcing them into existence to start with, so that we torture them for a short period of time and then murder them.
You were forced into existence?
I guess in a way I was, but I'm fine with
No. There's a difference.
In what way would
being
my
forced as
my
in
parents wanted me.
Go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, and the difference between forcing an animal to have sex.
No, they don't force animals to have sex. They artificially inseminate, which means they have to first rape the male so they can get the sperm, and then they have to use that sperm with which to rape the female. It's done by humans. It's not.
It's pretty hard to rape a male.
No, they've got it down. You should look into it. It's really
But what I mean is that they usually volunteer.
Don't give him any ideas. You had your hand up?
It's pretty gross.
All right, so
they stick a vibrator up his ass.
so it would be best if we.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting embarrassed. No more of this conversation.
There is lab-grown meat. It exists. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
It's not coming to a store anytime soon, but it will get cheaper eventually. That would be better than animal farming, but I'm going to eat animals until then. And I also think it might be possible to make meat plants instead of growing in a lab. Just make a new species that grows meat.
Well, they kind of do that now.
Is in the ground.
If you try the Beyond Burger, you can't tell you're not eating meat. It tastes totally like meat, but it's made out of pea protein and.
No, it don't. I'm sorry. I'm vegan too, but no, it don't.
You don't like the Beyond Burger?
Oh no.
Steve,
Well, I mean,
It tastes like
it
dog.
shouldn't just taste like meat. It should actually be meat.
Okay. Stephen?
Yeah, back to the economics thing a little bit. There are two words that we've used tonight, and they're just totally divorced in the way we look at culture. That is economics and ecology. They both have eco, which is basically from the Greek oikos, household, and nomos, economics, structure of the household, and logos, truth. Basic, truth of the household. And you were bringing that up, Kathy, about looking at these things about animals and and habitat and we just don't look at it that way. The two, ecology gets thrown over into biology departments or something, and economics, of course, is in business departments usually. And we just don't look. So no, I've told my economics students, because you don't find this in economic textbooks, but that before you can decide on a structure of the household, you need to have some understanding of how a household should operate. It's that logos of the household. I think we just totally don't even think about that.
So we've talked about this before in the past. We've talked about, we had a meetup specifically in here about this topic, is the ability for not only the human beings to specify in something or specialize in something, right? But the ability to only by a couple layers of proxy can you take most morality and abandon it. But human beings have this ability just from this really close proximity. So very few people will take a knife and just plunge it into someone else's chest. The act of doing that is almost impossible for a lot of humans to do. It's such a personal act. But a couple layers of proxy, pressing a button, right, to drop a bomb on a computer screen target that you see is really not morally difficult for almost anybody.
And Bill said he would have the aliens kill us all humanely.
Well,
that's his button.
We're out of time for tonight, and I want to do the thing. So, Elizabeth, you didn't have a chance to get in tonight. Would you like to add anything?
I've learned so much.
No, just absorbing tonight. All right, Steve, you didn't
I'm
really
good.
catch in tonight. When do you think you only made like one comment? Jump in.
Okay.
Tim, you didn't. Been totally quiet.
One point I was going to say in response to something you were talking about is none are as hopelessly enslaved as those who think they're free.
Yes. Yes. None are hopelessly enslaved as those that think they're free. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Carla, you actually didn't speak much tonight.
I'm thinking of domesticated and pet animals, and from their particular viewpoint, they would want one more caveat put on your list of things, is that whoever is in control of them has got to understand their whole physiology and their interconnection with each other, with the humans that's going to control them. You have to know the animal if you're going to be over in control of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and my dog taught me that. Well, so did my parakeets. And my parakeets, their cage goes out on the deck all day long. The deck is screened in, the cage is open, and they're flying around. I've got my birdie ghetto with all these branches that they tell you in the pet stores, oh, you can't take tree branches from your yard and put it for parakeets because they'll pick up all sorts of diseases. Oh, yes, you can, because they need the bacteria the same as we do. So the dog and the parakeets have taught me all about animals.
That's a great idea. So like,
dearly.
so if you're going to have some type of full control over some other creature,
right?
It's your responsibility then to understand that creature's needs and wants and desires to the best of your ability. Is that what you're saying?
I went to books and I learned all about dog language when I got my dog 5 years ago.
Fair enough.
4 years ago. Dogs speak in body language. And if you don't know the body language, you can't walk your dog off leash. I can walk my dog off leash. I know the body language. I know the training. I know that you can't give a reward all the time like we would to our kids, give them a reward all the time. And then they run across the street because they want the ball more than they reward them. The dogs do the same thing. So yeah, do I know everything about them? Of course not. I'm still learning day in and day out.
So there's baked into that, I think, respect for sure is present. There's respect for that other animal.
Absolutely.
Clearly.
Absolutely.
And in your particular case, surely there's love and affection that goes with it
And
as well.
people said, oh, you're buying parakeets? You know, they shouldn't even be selling them. I said, but they are. And since birds give me great pleasure, I'll take the two that are already in the pet store and I'll give them a better life than they'll ever have anywhere else.
Fair enough.
It's kind of like you have to be humble and to know that you don't know all what's best for them.
Right.
That you have to know.
Yeah.
You have to know.
Please, you had your hand up?
Well, he's next, and then I'll.
Oh, I wasn't going around the room. I
Oh, I
was
thought
finding
you were
people that hadn't really spoke at all today. But please.
So what I was going to
That's
say to what she was saying is that you know, I've owned 3 dogs. One was a boxer, one was a pit bull boxer mix, and then this French bulldog. And they are not the same at all.
Right.
Owning a dog, like owning my pit bull and boxer together, that was great. That was one experience. But then when I got this French bulldog, I was like, what is this?
Oh yeah.
Well, their temperaments have been bred for specific purposes.
Right.
It makes sense that they'd
Yes,
be different.
You have to understand, like
you have to learn your animal.
Yeah, you totally have, because he is not anything like my dogs. I'm like, where is this? But you know, I agree that people get these pets and stuff and they don't learn about them and they don't take the time to be quiet and still and watch the behavior of the animal to understand what their patterns and stuff are. Yeah, so I agree. Yeah.
Well, Tim, and then I'll close, and then that'll be our evening.
Why is it more acceptable for people, you may see ads in the paper or wherever, you know, we're moving far away and we can't take our dog with us, and he's lived with us for 10 years, but now, fuck him. And if somebody's going to come along and get the dog or not, it'll wind up at a shelter, being adopted or not, put down or not.
I can speak to that.
But
I did.
But why is it why is it not equal a convenience, or why can you not do that with the same degree of legitimacy with, say, your child?
Well, you should be able to.
Yeah. Unfortunately, many people don't do, right? So.
No, but I'm saying you got to.
Right, I hear you.
How many questions do you face when you say, "Here's my dog. I've had it all his life. We really love each other, but we can't take it anymore. It's too much of an inconvenience now. It's somebody else's problem." Oh, how many questions are they going to get? If you go, where do you go and say, "Here's my kid. I don't want it anymore. Have a nice day."
So in closing, from the million IQ species, right? I'll close in saying that despite the suffering that you humans have caused, right? What you've arrived in your planet is not uncommon in the universe. This is a thing when a species is introduced to technology and technology grows rapidly, and the capabilities of that species don't have the sufficient time to evolve to keep pace with its technology and capabilities. There's lots of hardships that usually come out of that equation. Okay. So the interesting thing about life and life being present, omnipresent throughout the universe, is a natural progression of reality, right? Life comes from this natural conclusion of reality inevitably. It's the one thing that you can always guarantee with life, which makes it so beautiful and special and precious, is that it always changes. It's an always changing thing. It never sits still. So humans will automatically achieve what they wish, which is to have that redemption. It will happen because they always will change. Things will always change, right? And we're just here to make sure that it changes. We're helping you. We're helping you change it, right? So all hail the million IQ alien. Right? So the takeaway from tonight's discussion, now speaking from the non-million IQ alien, speaking from Chris Tight's perspective again, is that this remote proxy model, this kind of idea in our minds, this imagination exercise we went through today, right? It's easy for us. It's so easy for us to imagine yielding control and power to somebody else, right? To solve our problems for us. It's such a lustful desire to just yield some kind of authority and power to somebody that's going to make things better.
It's liberating,
right?
That's responsibility.
It gives us this feeling of like relief that we don't have to do it. Well, guess what? Ain't nobody gonna come around and make shit great again. Okay? If we're gonna make stuff great, we have to do it ourselves. We have to. It's within us. There are no aliens that are coming, as far as I know. As far as I know, you said conspiracy theories. I don't know. Maybe they're here. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's him. I don't know. Right? But the point is that it really does come down to this huge burden of human beings to fix. Since we are doing all this stuff, it is then our responsibility to think this through, come up with better solutions, and advocate for them, and even be rebellious if that's what it takes against the status quo. If the status quo is so cruel and so harmful and so abusive and so horrible, it's our duty then, as painful as that be, and as difficult as that might put us in, it is our duty to then act, and that is to be, in my opinion, human. So that's tonight. Yep. So thanks. It was a fun time. First time we ever did this, right? Yeah. Yep. So again, everyone feel free to hang out, eat, stay as long as you want.
Hey, you know those brothels in Vegas? I think those those anal probe aliens should go work there.
Maybe. But isn't it really the aliens' fault anyway? Because didn't they really come down here and mess with
They got robots for it.
Transpermia is not a word that you're allowed to use
I'd like
again.
to try it.
They do it enough. Programs now, treatment programs for people who are addicted to all kinds of freaky sex with robots.
That doesn't sound like a getting off of sex.
So the robots can give them particular type of sex that they thought they wanted to have.
Where can I get one of these?
The treatment program?
No, just a sex box.
Vegas might be a good place to go. I don't know.